being one of those peculiar days, I jumped in the shower, jumped out, jumped on the scales, screamed and jumped off again. And actually I'm not doing too bad because I've lost about 14 pounds in 2 weeks. I put a lot of weight on during the summer because I broke my ankle and I was off work for 8 weeks, so it makes a difference. But now I'm watching what I eat and working like stink to try and get rid of it, and it's going, but very slowly. But then I started to think, well, who doesn't worry about their body image every day in magazines and TV and huge billboards? We're all reminded that we don't have the perfect body. All the beautiful people in advertising smile almost sarcastically down at us ugly, too skinny or too fat types with a look that says, don't you wish you looked this good? When we're in our youth we worry endlessly that everyone's laughing at what we perceive as the huge zit on the side of our nose, or we worry that our chests are too small or our bums are too big. None of these worries go away, they just become a part of a larger list of faults that we find with ourselves. Where did this constant worrying start? People today think that aspiring to the body beautiful image is a modern thing, and so it is, but it started really with the advent of cinema. As far back as the silent movies, women wanted to look like the stars that they saw on screen. Greta Garbo, Marlene Dietrich, Lillian Gish were all being wooed by their male counterparts, people like Ronald Colman, Rudolph Valentino, Douglas Fairbanks Sr. The sales of hair products and makeup increased, and similarly men realised that they had to be more suave or more muscular to attract the ladies. Gyms opened for the men and hair salons for the ladies, and so the die was cast. Men and women were never again would simply be worried whether they've got a roof over their heads or food in their bellies. Now they had to look gorgeous too. With the talkies and then colour movies, the images became more glamorous and more sexual and ever harder to compete with. People were almost shocked to see Burt Lancaster rolling around the beach with Deborah Kerr in From Here to Eternity, or Marilyn Monroe in films like Some Like It Hot. But it paved the way for the sexual revolution to come in the 50s and 60s. Nowadays, of course, we see sexual images on TV and cinema all the time and hardly bat an eyelid, but the images only serve to heighten our sense of personal inadequacy. We now have programs on TV like Extreme Makeover, where people are quite happy to have their faces and bodies butchered into shape just to fit in with the idea that if you're not beautiful you really should be ashamed of yourself. Once you've been transformed you can hold your head up high, be the life and soul of the party, and generally loved by everyone around you. Of course, nobody wants to think that they're when they step out the front door that old ladies and small children are going to scream and run for cover, but realistically, when's that ever likely to happen? If somebody's disfigured in an accident, or maybe born with a cleft palate or worse, then plastic surgery certainly has a place, because we live in such a judgmental society. Nobody wants to be considered a freak, but because people see shows like this, they're starting to believe that it's perfectly acceptable to hack pieces off or add pieces on in their quest for perfection. Plastic surgery is seen as a quick fix or a cure-all to whatever other inadequacies people may feel about themselves. Michael Jackson's the ultimate example of when it all goes wrong. His father tormented him through his childhood, calling him ugly and big-nosed. he was a guy who had it all. He was a good-looking African American boy who was rich and famous beyond most people's dreams, but he had huge issues with his own body image. No doubt after the first piece of surgery to reduce the size of his nose, he came out of that with such a high that he decided to alter every other piece that he didn't like about himself. After so many surgeries, his face now looks like he's the victim of a car crash. There's another TV show that uses shock tactics to now scare parents into altering the look of their children. Honey, We're Killing the Kids takes usually fat children and mixes and morphs their image with those of their parents, and bloats and generally tries to disfigure the face into something horrific, then assures the parents that that's what the kids are going to look like when they get to 40. It's true that the UK is following America in producing a nation of obese children, but it's not all down to bad diet. Since the Thatcher years in the 1980s, where everything had to show a profit or get sold, thousands of school playing fields were systematically disposed of, leaving less space for organised physical education for their children. Add to that the fact that most children get taxied to school and back these days and are not allowed out to play near their homes for fear of abduction, and the child's bound to gain weight. Sitting in front of an Xbox 360 is not the same as playing Wars or Cowboys and Indians as we did when we were children. Okay, so maybe it wasn't politically correct, but at least we got some exercise out of it. With all the advice of the healthy diet forced upon us by the media, you would think that we would all be a nation of svelte, beautiful people, but instead people just get fatter and fatter. It could be down to the fact that these days lots of mums work and don't have time to prepare proper dinners, so instead they find it far easier to throw something into a microwave and 5 minutes later present it as dinner. Once these bad eating habits get established, it's hard to get out of them. Even if we escape being a tubby child, once the onset of age takes over and our metabolism slows down, the weight piles on anyway. It could be said that Marlon Brando here is a classic example of how we can go from gorgeous to engorged, but the change is slow and insidious, so we don't notice it until it's too late. The only thing you can say for certain is that when you are more mature, let's say, you wish to hell you looked as good as you did in your youth. Of course, it's no longer really a problem. You can simply eat whatever you want to, do no exercise whatsoever, smoke and drink to excess, and when you feel like you don't like the look of your bloated and wrinkled frame anymore and your brown teeth, you can simply remortgage your house, treat yourself to liposuction, a facelift and porcelain caps, and you'll look 19 and beautiful once more.